Hi guys, my name is Attorney Walter, if not the third. I'm with Disability Resolution PA, and I want to point out an individual that keeps coming up over and over, and it's not somebody that I would expect from doing disability law. As you know, when I go to do a hearing with somebody, we go over one particular story that they're going to share that brings a humanistic quality as to why they are disabled, where they were and where they're at now, how they lost something, to create a judge's integration, assimilation with the case on a more personal level. Somebody keeps coming up over and over. I don't know how to reach out to him. I mean, I could always see if he's on Twitter or shoot him an email or do something like that. Maybe I'll send him a video link. But if Steven Spielberg, and I know when I say his name, almost religious things happen. But Steven Spielberg, one of, if not the greatest filmmaker of many generations. I mean, who else can you know, maybe George Lucas, but who else can you? The best way this man could help the disabled, or anybody going to seek benefits, is to help them teach themselves how to tell a story. To help them understand aspects of a plot and how to develop it into something that kind of shocks and surprises the judge into paying more attention. I want to go through some of the things that I've noted about his movies that I think you should use when explaining your story to the Social Security disability judge. These are things that he does. He has not validated any of these things that I put here. These are just things that I've noticed. I'm a big Steven Spielberg fan. I have been a big Steven Spielberg fan for a very long time. Most people have. I'll ask people, well, what's your favorite movie? That's the classic. What's your favorite movie? My favorite movie is this. That's a Steven Spielberg movie. Next person, I'm running a hearing question. What's your favorite movie? My favorite movie is this. That's a Steven Spielberg movie as well. So all of a sudden, I started to realize all of these people from totally different backgrounds. They could be black, they could be white, they could be Latino. It doesn't matter. Steven Spielberg is like the connection. All right, let's go through them. These are the things that I've noticed that Steven Spielberg does when telling a story to best connect with the audience. Number one, prototype story that will be revised 20 times. Don't be afraid to revise it. Everything is a prototype. Everything is a template that you're working on making better. And every time you work on it, you're slightly grinding away to get that perfect sculpture that you can put in the art case. In this case, you're working on that story to get the words right, to get your reactions correct, to practice it in front of a mirror, to deliver to that judge. Number two, pull from great stories that he pulled from. He pulled from stories like Dune. He pulled from stories like Moby Dick, Pinocchio. All these stories have base fundamentals that we as humans connect directly to, which make us, just seem more at home with who we are as a race of beings, like what makes us human. And these stories, they tap into that. And he uses those aspects of them. And that's genius. Number three, realize that the greats are the greats. Yes, there will be new greats, but superhumans are superhumans for storytelling for a reason. So study 5 of them, and don't limit yourself by their race or even main language. So we're going through a period right now where we're trying to push this and that, and this is what makes a great leader. And here's the top 15 things that make a great leader. And here's the 10 things if you do, you're a toxic, human evil person. Throw all of that out. Question number 1. Has the person ever accomplished the completion of the project or product relative to the thing that you want to learn from? Number 2. Was it mind-blowingly amazing? Was it absolutely astronomical? Was it like wow good? That's what you're looking for. Every generation has different people, right? And this generation is trying to promote, though, well, you need to have this many Asian people and this many Jewish people and this many on the team. The team could be all Latino people, but they could be all great. So the point is, don't listen to this. You have to make a group look like this and sound like this and be like this. Because diversity automatically equates to genius perfection. Sometimes it does. Sometimes it's really cool and it's great and you get some of the coolest new ideas out there. But find the great people. You know who the great people are. You've seen their stuff. You've seen it, right? You've seen it. You already know. Do not limit yourself based upon how people are pushing a certain agenda as to what you should like. You know what you like. Listen to what your soul tells you is the good stuff. And then go learn from them. And here's what I'm getting at with that. I don't want you to get stuck in all the noise that's being promoted right now about what it is that you need to learn from. You need to learn from what connects with you, deep down in your soul. You need to connect with that because that is something that you will be able to portray to the judge, to reach out and give to the judge in a way that these other things you will not be able to. If you're really into Jurassic Park, then you're probably not going to be into something else. And if society tells you to like that something else, then it's going to be harder for you to watch that and learn from that and then give that to the judge. If you're really into Tyler Perry's movies, go figure out how he did it. Some of them are just genius. They're genius. There's no way around it. It's absolute genius. Spend time being honest with yourself and figure out who the right people are that you need to learn from. It's like the modern version of having an internship as, learning to become a blacksmith or learning to be somebody who, would tend the cattle. Go on YouTube, watch them. Watch how they deliver information. Watch how their actors deliver information. Because you can take that and apply that and use that with the judge. All right. 4. When creating the story, explain why it is unique up front. Give value to the judge as to why they should listen. Okay. A lot of you guys will start out and say, I was at this job, and at this job I slipped and fell, and then when I slipped and fell, everything changed, and that's why I can't work today. And that'll be your story. It'll be horrific. I'll have to listen to it, and I'll be like, start it off by throwing it a little off. Okay? Start it off by throwing it a little off. What do I mean by that? Tell the judge right off the bat why that story is going to be something to listen to. Your Honor, I don't always do this, and I usually don't. But for some reason this day I did. Start it off a little off, right? Start it off so that the judge is automatically thinking, whoa, this is not the usual. All right, next one. All right, number 5. Don't tell them the ending until they have a foundation. Don't tell them the ending until you have a foundation. You need to create a little mini world. You don't let them know exactly what the ending is until they're living in that little world. You want to make sure that they are fully immersed into that little world before you drop the shock on them. Right? I was a beautiful, beautiful woman. I was a handsome, handsome guy. I was correct. I was a this. I was a that. And that's when, a week after that, they shaved my head. Finding out what it is that takes what you loved and what you thought you were all about, and then defining it with who you are now with a shocking gesture. That verbal boom is incredibly important. It wakes the judge up. The judge is sitting there over and over and over hearing these claims. Incredibly important. All right, next one. Number 6, their emotional connectivity is based upon shock, awe, humanity, and personal association with your story situation. Only you can get them to go ahead and invest into that little world that you're creating. And at the end, it is usually best not to have a full-on spin and flip, but to shock them a little bit, to give them something that makes them go, whoa. One of the stories that I will never forget is when a claimant who loved her dog very much had a very abusive husband, and that very abusive husband hung the dog before essentially the claimant got home. And when the claimant got home, he told her that he just, strung the dog up. She ran to the back to go ahead and save the dog, to pull the dog down, but the dog had already passed away. That story, which I just summarized, was absolutely horrific to listen to. As a dog lover myself, I immediately wanted to, go ahead and take care of that person who did that to the dog. And the problem inherent with that is that those individuals, and by that I mean obviously get the authorities to arrest him forever and ever and ever and ever. Animal abuse like that is never acceptable. It should never be allowed. And I don't care if it's this country or another. We need to make steps to push people to understand that that is not acceptable. Those sorts of situations, those sorts of stories never leave us. I've had thousands of claims since that hearing. I will never forget that story. Just something to think about. Okay. 7. Search out synonyms when describing what happened. These are bright, very intelligent judges who enjoy diction. Search out words. Now, I understand you might not have a high-level education, but you don't have to use super high-end words to specifically, describe information about essentially, what's going on. But you can find different words. A lot of people that don't have a higher education, maybe don't even have a college education, maybe don't even have a high school education, maybe these individuals will use the same word over and over and over again. Look up synonyms to help you describe the story. Okay. Number 8. Your story to the judge must show who you were and the drastic change into who you are now. Who you were and the drastic change as to who you are now. So you have to shape the person that you were. And think about this. Think about the changes of people that were that were large. The soldier who's a tough guy who no longer has any legs. Michael Jackson, right? Huge transition there. Think about the people who have had huge transitions. Describe their big transition, and then apply that logic to your own situation as well. Number 9, learn how the flow of silence affects your ability to deliver the importance of words. So I was in Berklee College of Music, and one of the concerts I went to, and I went to a bunch of concerts while I was there because it was like free to us, so why not? So John Mayer was doing his I want to go back to Berklee, I want to see what it's about, I want to be part of it, I want to just reconnect. And he did that while I was going to Berklee. And at the show where he was delivering his speech, he was talking about how he would play guitar, an acoustic guitar. And this was when John Mayer was huge. Not like in a Jeep commercial like he is now, or a Jeep or whatever. It's whatever commercial he's in right now. This was when he was huge. Okay? All right. So he was talking about he'd play the guitar and play the guitar and play the guitar. And he said the loudest and the biggest and the fireworks that he could create with an acoustic guitar were this, he would scream and make the loudest vocals he could and play the acoustic guitar as hard as he could. And what he said was, that's good, and you can do a couple of those, but there's got to be one moment, one point, where you pull back, you get really quiet with your voice, and you leave out either the guitar or become extremely quiet with the picking. And what that forces the person to do is it forces them to lean in, to understand what you're saying, to make their brain work a little bit harder, to see visually, to hear in an audio format what you're talking about. And that, it's late, there's a bug somewhere. It's a mosquito. Hold on, I'm just going to screw up the camera. So what that means, it's Florida, it is what it is. So what that means is that he learned that the most extreme, as loud as he can get, as hard as he could play, was not utilizing all the options that he had. Because your brain expects that person to get up to that point and then come down. What he would do is this. Boom. And then back up. Smart. Very smart. Let alone a guy from the music world would come up with that and use it, and I would remember it, 15 to 20 years later. All right. Number 10. Don't be afraid to explain some of your culture with your story. You may be different in some way that makes your analytical mind more accepting of your choices. Classic things that I hear. Okay, here's one of them. I'm a black female in America, so I dealt with my depression by going to church, and that's how my family dealt with it. Okay, I've heard that many times. Or another one. In my family's country, we don't talk about it. It's weakness. It doesn't exist. It's something we shun. That I usually see in the Latino community. Don't be afraid to explain your culture. Don't be afraid to let the judge into something that they may not be aware of. Don't be afraid to let the judge understand that you come from a background that is likely different than what the judge experienced. Now, you have no idea what the judge experienced. You have no idea where the judge comes from. But still, give them that opportunity to see into your world. Your culture, your race, those things are incredibly unique and incredibly beautiful, and you should not sell them short when explaining your story, because a lot of people might not get why you made that choice to not talk about, being raped as a child and how you dealt with it as a family, or to talk about how you basically tried to overcome being physically impaired. But in your community, people looked at it a different way. Okay. Number 11. Tell your story to different people and be okay with reading how they react and listening to their changes. You'll need to make it accessible to everybody. All right. Now here's the thing. When you go ahead and interact with people and you present ideas to people and you give them the story that you're telling them, they're going to give you changes. You're going to hate some of the changes. You're going to like some of the changes. Integrate them as you see fit. The judge is a person who needs to hear a well-rounded version of the story, because you don't know the judge. You didn't have dinner with them last night. There's no way for you to know how to just get to their brain. Their spouses, the spouses of the judge, they know how to push their buttons. They know where the things are, the strings to pull. They know that, but you don't. So test it. Okay, in the film industry, they go ahead and they do showings. This showing at this festival, and this showing, pre-showing, and the first edit, the second edit, Okay. Number 12. Accept that the judge may connect or not, but in the end, you did your best. One of the things that I keep realizing of myself is that as I get older, I am more accepting of imperfection. I used to want this to be perfect, and this to look this way, and this to be this way. There is no perfect anything. The next one you build will be better or worse. You have to take the wins and the losses together. And you have to understand that the journey that everybody always talks about is one of those things that really they're just saying everything's a prototype, and we're going to work on it, we're going to try and make it better, and then we might end up somewhere good. Don't be upset with yourself if the judge doesn't connect and you spend a lot of time on it. You put the effort in, and that's all that matters. Did you put the effort in? You did. The judge didn't connect. That's okay. It happens. 13. Don't oversell being the victim. Character study with movies, always a classic thing. There's something wrong with the main character. There's some inherent flaw. Maybe they have some sort of, mental impairment or physical impairment, or they grew up in a family that doesn't believe in something that clearly exists. Or basically, they're in a situation where, they themselves don't want to have the courage to do something, and they would need that courage to do that thing. There is some sort of, oh, there's that mosquito. There he is. I don't think that's a mosquito. I think that's just one of the billions of bugs Florida has. Anyway, so don't oversell being the victim. Because the bottom line is there needs to be something that is wrong with the main character for a great story. But if you started out as, I was a victim, I was a victim, I was a victim, and then you end up as, I was a victim, I was a victim, I was a victim, there's no story arc. There's none of this. It's just, I was a victim. So don't oversell it. Give the judge a growth pattern, you know? Some stories are tougher than others. PTSD from childhood trauma, those are tough to do. I should do a video specifically on those because those do this, and that's tough. 14. Don't try to make them believe in something great or greater than they can in that moment. Great than they can in that movement by what you were telling them. I don't know what I wrote there. Things take time for ideas to... Oh, okay, gotcha. Things take time for ideas to become planted. Your next door neighbor... Okay, so here's the thing. Trying to get the judge to believe something that's unusual or different might take a little bit of time. So I wrote this in here. Your next door neighbor was a secret agent from Russia. That takes a little bit of time to get used to, right? Unless we see the helicopter, we see the gadgets, and then all of a sudden, boom, we're in. Well, you're just telling a story. They can't see these things visually happening in front of them. They're not hearing the Kremlin calling the person, right? So if you're going to come out with something outlandish, something that's out there, you're going to need to give a little bit of time for the judge to build up the facts in their mind that agree with what you're saying. 15. Realize you aren't unique when it comes to telling these stories. These judges have heard it before, so make it memorable within reason. Not by technique, but by the story you sew into the fabric of the communication that you present to the judge. I need you to understand that basically, at the end of the day, you have to convince this judge that you are somebody that deserves these disability benefits. And part of that, and I'm not going to cut it this way or that way, is that that judge has to like you and think that you are unique for some reason. Because that judge is a human being. They're going to be like, oh yeah, that was that claim. That was that claim about that. That was the claim about the dog situation. I'll never forget that. I've heard tons and tons of stories. I will never forget that. These are the things that I picked up from Steven Spielberg with how he does stuff. He obviously uses a lot of really talented people over and over and over again. And they continue to create the greatest of the greatest stuff. It would be cool to see a Steven Spielberg, Tyler Perry combination with some of the more recent stuff that's coming out, because that would be bridging two very different cultures that I think would actually meld really well. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. But at the end of the day, study these brilliant people as to how you can explain your story to the judge to make you seem unique so that the judge remembers your claim, likes your claim, and wants to approve it. My name is Attorney Walter Knott. If you have questions about obtaining Social Security disability benefits, give me a call, shoot me an email. If it's questions outside of that, I donate 2 hours every Thursday, 8 to 10 p.m. on the live YouTube channel, where basically you can catch up, call the phone number, and ask me whatever question you want. All right? Have an absolutely wonderful night. I'll catch you later, and we'll go from there. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.